pay the bill.
Okay,
So you need to get, I asked them to send me
I'll
an
talk to
invoice.
him. I got
And
his
if
phone
you're
number.
gonna talk to them, ask them to send me the invoice.
okay.
So I have a question, you guys done? I have a question. There's so much work to do, and I remember we had a conversation about potentially contracting some of that work out.
Yes.
Because it is a lot, and there are some really, I pulled my phone out just so, you can see this right here. This is, at the corner of, Derby and, Hopewell. And that is these are huge holes in the middle of the turning, where you're turning at. And so that's how that looks.
No, something that big, you have to farm out.
Yeah, so,
Something,
but you see, I just want you to see how big these holes are. And these are two, and it's another one over there that I
okay, so something like
missed.
that, something like that we can do. And
Right,
then the other problem you run into, the hole, when you have that hole and all this extra crap in the outside of it, well, that's gotta come. And
right,
by hand, you only wanna do 2-3 feet wide tops by hand. Well, it's gonna be rough, and when they drive over it, they're gonna be just as mad at you as they were when the hole was there.
right.
So you have to have a paver, if you wanna do bigger than that, you gotta have a contractor to come in with a paver and do the job right.
So that's what I'm saying. And so this is also what I talked about when I said the curve, that curve is gone.
Correct, no, that's a different, that's a totally different contract.
Yeah.
So there,
No, I
and
get it.
I mean, we're gonna have residents, the wall's gonna tighten up here with this comment. So the thing that is done, and I've been around it long times, is, when you put a project out, you go over on Blairwood or something, you go in that asphalt work we're talking about, Blairwood, I asked that question to the engineers, is not curb or sidewalk. A lot of times when you go in there and pave, and you put in a proposal to replace the bad curb and sidewalk, that goes on the homeowner. That is done a lot, in that they pay a per foot charge to give them so much fault. I know the look I'm gonna get, and I know the look I'm gonna get from residents, but that is done, so, because I commonly have this done, I'm going there, when we're in the road work, doing storm, doing water, doing sewer, and they go through the paved road, you're in an area where, they're doing that kind of work, and they'll give the homeowner, you have to X amount of period of time to do this yourself. They go through, they paint it, this curb needs replaced, this block of sidewalk needs replaced, blah, blah, blah. The homeowner will have X amount of time to do it themselves. If they don't, then the government does it, and you goes on your taxes.
Oh, wow, because
Yeah, wow.
no, the reason why I'm saying that is because the people that live there, right there, that live here now, they just moved in maybe about 2 years ago, and that curve's been like that before they even got here. So that would not be right to put that on their taxes.
And what about sidewalks? If
Yeah.
you move into the neighborhood that has a sidewalk, you're responsible for that sidewalk. You move there, you have to know you're gonna be responsible for that sidewalk.
I mean, just because they moved in, if the house needs painting, and you moved in, and the house needs painting, you still got, you can't, it's.
Well, if that's the process, then we
Not
need
just,
to.
we've had this conversation, I'm just saying, this is one way this is handled.
You guys gotta agree on that too.
Yeah, right.
So, but I'm just bringing you, showing you just this
Okay,
instance
so
of this road.
We gotta start someplace, and one of the things to add for the road department to do, and for us to get things done, the small holes that we ourselves can do in this township, start getting the ball rolling in the right direction, and improve our township roads, we wanna do. The bigger patches, the bigger things, we're gonna have to farm out. We're gonna come with some cash, and we gotta figure out and decide which one's the worst, and what order we wanna do it. We've done it in the past. I know a couple contractors, two of them told me no, and I know some contractors that will do it, so we went to farm that out.
Put on your
Right.
list.
Yeah,
Put on your ARPA list. Put on your ARPA list.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Put everything on that
Folks, I
list.
don't mean to interrupt. I live on Knox Avenue. I've lived there since I was 9 years old. The street's been paved
you
one
can
time.
you give your name, please, for the record?
Excuse
Can
me?
you give your name for the record?
Your name and address.
Your name?
Thomas Gilbert, 325 Knox Avenue.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Go ahead.
And there's potholes going up and down Knox Avenue that's deep enough you bury a dog.
Oh, I know, that's because
I know.
I did some volunteer work in the school there. That's one of the ones that I looked at the center this past weekend.
It
Yes.
wouldn't be so bad But I seen a truck going down the road the other day, supposed, you know, had the patching equipment on the back of it. And as they're going down the street, they got off the road on my easement there, which is being tore all to hell now. You know, they're missing the potholes, but they're tearing my yard up. So my question is, when is something gonna be accomplished on this road?
It is.
We complained. My wife called a couple of times, we didn't get no response. I sent an email 10 days ago or something and told you about it. And last Friday or Saturday, I seen a truck go down with the equipment to do a patchwork or something, went down by the house,
Was
and
that
pulled off the
Saturday?
side of the road and went, you know, on my part of the easement there, which is becoming a mud hole.
Yeah.
You know, my property taxes are what they are. But the decrease in my property value because of something like this is my concern. You know, I live in an old house, built in 1888. It's all I can do to keep the place going, you know, and for it to be presentable. I've got it painted, everything else. But it's hard to even go to the grocery store and miss these potholes.
Right.
I'm having to go all the way around in the neighborhood to try to get to good roads to where I'm not tearing up my vehicles.
Well, you hear us talking about that. I don't know who you sent that email to. I didn't see it, but
Right.
I'm not trying to avoid your situation. But I know that because I worked on that school this past Saturday.
Right.
And,
It might have been his
drove-
truck that you seen going down the
and
street.
drove down that road and had to go left to center to avoid them gosh darn potholes in the
Exactly.
first 100 feet of Knox Road off Third.
There's three situations, one at the top of the street, close to Third Street,
Yeah.
one down past the school there, before you get to Fraser Avenue.
Yes, I saw those two.
And then down in front of my house, dead in front of my house, and at all these places, you can see where people's trying to miss the potholes. I know that I don't own the easement, I do take care of it. You know, mow the grass or whatever else, but I don't want a mud hole in my front yard.
What's your address, sir?
Excuse me?
Can you give me your address again?
325 Knox Avenue.
325 Knox Avenue. So that's what we're trying to do is look at, because there's so many roads that need work. And we have to prioritize how we go about doing it because we just don't have the money to do all the roads. But we have to prioritize what's gonna, you know, what needs to come first and what we can do later.
And educate ourselves, because in years past, I hear people talk about in that situation there, well, we're gonna just do the whole road. You know, we'll go down there and grind off, 2 inches of asphalt and repave the whole road. Well, that's not necessarily the best use of in my opinion, that's not the best use of my taxpayers' dollars. I was just talking to Sheila on the picture she showed me there, like the spot, you thought that first 100 feet of Knox here. Well, there's a section of that needs done out, and that's where we hire a contractor. Because it's so bad in that section from point A to point B in that rough area. Has to do with I look at it again, but it has to do with those trees. I bet it never gets any sun, maybe it's a sap for them trees all the time, and that's bad on asphalt. But anyway, do the different sections down through there, but we are thinking about it, we are talking about it, and we will make an improvement in this township. I guarantee it.
Well, I hope so, and I hope
Yes.
it's in the next near future, because it has decreased the speeding going up and down the road.
Yeah, I know, we have some positive side, I like that.
Because you can't drive, unless you've got an off-road vehicle, you can't go up and down through there
Yes.
unless you're dodging these potholes.
I agree. I came down there Saturday and I used to go to school at Cliff. And when I went down, it was very sad. It's really, really sad. And sometimes you go down streets like that and you look at other streets and you're like, oh, well, that street is not that, this street is not that bad when you go down.
There is so
This
much
street.
decline in that neighborhood at this point in
Yes.
time that it's appalling. Like I said, I've lived on Knox Avenue since I was 9 years old. I'll be 66 in July. And I've seen the road paved one time in my lifetime. The neighborhood has been paid one time that I can recollect. But I'm 66 years, I'll be 66, so my memory is not as good as it used to be either. So, they have come down and tried to patch the holes a couple of times, but it's just like you said, unless it's done correctly, in the right manner, as soon as you hit it, or when the winter comes,
Plows it out.
the cold, the condensation and the freezing and shrinkage and hot weather, and it just flowers, it just comes out as soon as you run over the top of it.
Thank you.
So that's why it's important for us to try to find some people to contract, because
Yeah.
Trustee McLaughlin, he can do a lot, but he can't do everything.
You're talking about why that, Jim.
So,
Come on, please.
Hi, I'm Georgianne Godsey from Harrison Township, and I just wanted to comment, as you were talking about the sidewalks being the responsibility of the homeowners. In my experience is that in the city, they will send a letter to the property owner after they've marked the squares and say, this is what needs to be done, and this is what it would cost if we do it. Give them that period of time to do it. But if it goes on their taxes, call the treasurer or the auditor, because they may give them 3 to 5 years to pay that back on their taxes. So it wouldn't be that they have to pay the entire amount in 1 year.
My mother used to work there for 40 years. I know how they accept your taxes. She worked in the treasurer's office, and when you pay your taxes, they would just gladly put it on your taxes.
Right.
Okay,
Right,
so-
they do, but they will give you, that you don't have to pay it all in 1
But
year.
you still pay.
Right, you're still going to
So,
pay, but
well,
if I were-
instead of paying $1,000 this year, you may pay 300.
But
Well,
you have
they
the
reckon
option to
if
get
you
it
hire-
fixed elsewhere too.
Right,
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
they give you the opportunity to get it fixed.
And
elsewhere.
if you don't have young able bodies in the family to do it yourself, and you hire it done, we gotta pay that right now. You're gonna pay to replace that
Exactly.
sidewalk or road,
Right,
so.
so I was just adding that in, something to think about.
Thank you.
Next thing on the new business is stormwater and ditch line repairs. So, there's a resident that came, actually came to the fire department, I got communication of it, I went and spoke to the gentleman. And I had reached out to Montgomery County Soil and Water just for a confirmation of what I believe to be true. But, and you have to be careful how we do this, because, you dig up one person's ditch, you fix the water in front of one person's house, then everybody in the township lets you do theirs. And this particular situation, it's gotten bad through the years, the ditch line is no longer there, and the storm water from his yard is going out in the street, and it is a safety issue. So, in my opinion there, we as a township would have to fix that. And I told that gentleman that I'm gonna verify that, and it's a process, we gotta call OOPS, to make sure there's nothing in the ground. And then we use a laser to shoot the grade from his culvert to the neighbor's culvert, and we do that ditch line. But I've seen situations in the past where people have approached us to do that, because their field doesn't drain. The ditch works, the field not draining is not my issue. So you have to look at it, just because we do one person's, you have to be careful how you word that and how you do it. So you don't open up a can of worms everybody wants you to dig their ditch line in front of their house. So there's certain particular things that has to happen, and I'm gonna verify this with Montgomery County Soil and Water before we do it. So we as a township are protected.
So that I can get a better understanding, so how do you determine whether that's our responsibility or the homeowner's responsibility?
I'll verify that with Soil and Water.
Okay. Because I know my sister lives at, there's water that always sits, and it kind of puddles like right there, like right at the front of her house, it puddles. And yeah, it's been there for years, and she wanted to
Is she
have
correct?
them get, there's no curb.
Okay, okay.
And she wanted to get that fixed, and they told her that was her responsibility. So,
Let me give us soil, let me give us soil and water,
Right.
and get the actual verbiage on,
So
let's
these
do it.
things you got listed here, I've seen so far, well, those two things on the road. Those are things you also, remember we talked to the county, those are things you also should be putting on that list for them too, that they want you to see. You remember?
Oh, okay, now you, I lost train of thought, okay, I follow you.
I'm talking
Mike,
about
Mike, yes,
stormwater and the road work.
yes.
Yeah, I think you should include everything you're bringing up here also on that list, even though you may be working in another way, because they said they could probably help us with a lot of stuff, but they need to know what we need done.
Okay.
and I think I have everything that you talked about except for, I try to get everything. Let's see.
Well, that's scary when you think of a lot.
I try to get everything I can think
It's a
of.
good thing.
Mhm.
Okay, when, describe, well, we'll talk about that later. Okay, so we talked, no, I guess we discussed everything on the agenda then.
We'll just have to get some details of
Anything else when you discuss or,
You mean as far as new business?
yeah, or anything on the agenda, anything?
I'm just waiting for you guys to hire administrator, administrative assistant or something. Cause I'm telling you, this stuff is coming, it's coming to get you.
Tell me about it. Yeah, well, we have somebody that we're looking to interview on Friday. But it's Slim Dickens.
How many trustees do we have?
Motion to
We
adjourn.
have 3
Okay,
trustees.
move to
We have
adjourn,
3
okay.
trustees.
Okay,
Yeah, we have 3 trustees.
okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Yes, second.
I second.
You have a roll call, please?
Trustee McLaughlin,
Yes.
trustee Bat.
Yes.
We were adjourned at 6:51.
Go ahead, Mr. McLaughlin. Hey, Mr. McLaughlin, on the water issue, from Sunset Drive in to Blairwood School, there's water running for all people back there.
Oh, that's very, I was going to.
Oh, that's not,
This was a work session,
but I mean,
official
runs to the neighbor's yard.
township meeting starts.
Because,
You can't change the flow of water.
Okay.
We've been sued on that for. You
that's
can't.
what, that was the reason I wanted to.
You change, you change water flow and you get your butt in trouble.